Morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Davis, Chair of the Board of Housing Development Partners, or HDP, and HDP Mason. It is now 8:06 on December 21st, 2023, and I'm calling to order the special meeting of the HDP Board and HDP Mason Board. We are meeting in person this morning with board members, staff, and members of the public in attendance. Before we get started, our attorney, Chuck Christensen, has a statement to make.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. As most of you know, the president and CEO of the Housing Commission sits ex officio as the chair of this entity. Lisa is ill today and not able to attend. Jeff is a deputy CEO. And by virtue of law that applies in the state of California, the deputy CEO is authorized to act in the absence of the CEO. And for that reason, Jeff will be taking over the position he's had for the last 20 months. So, and I'd like this documented in the records if we could. And by the way, there is still no conflict as a result of violations of 87103 or 1090 or 1091.5. Jeff is exempt from any conflict, is able to be counted for quorum purposes, and may vote.
Thank you, Chuck. So we do have a quorum with 4 board members present. Video of today's meeting is also being streamed live. The link to watch today's meeting is on HDP's website at www.hdppartners.org. Members of the public who wish to provide comments to both HDP and HDP Mason Board will need to complete a speaker slip here in the boardroom and submit it to our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, who is standing at the side of the boardroom. In a moment, I will propose placing item 100 from the HDP Board agenda on a consent agenda today. Members of the public may provide comments about the items on the consent agenda by submitting a speaker request form. To submit in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit a gold-colored form. To speak in opposition, please submit the pink-colored form. Those who wish to address the board about a topic that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker form. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments about agenda items or non-agenda public comments. However, if a large number of people wish to provide non-agenda public comments or speak on a single agenda item, comments will be limited to 1 minute each. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item shall be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. When I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. We'll now move on to non-agenda public comments for both the HDP and HDP Mason boards. We do not have any speaker slips submitted, so this concludes non-agenda public comment. And next, I'll ask if any of our board members would like to make any comments. Seeing none, we will move on to some brief comments that I have for you. As you know, December 12th, the San Diego City Council, acting as the Housing Authority, unanimously approved Lisa Jones to be the San Diego Housing Commission's CEO and the Executive Director of the Housing Authority. As such, Lisa will become HDP's new chair, according to the current bylaws, beginning at the next HDP meeting. On December 13th, the San Diego City Council approved the appointment of Councilmember Stephen Whitburn to join us as a member of the HDP board. We look forward to Councilmember Whitburn being here for our first meeting in 2024. Councilmember Whitburn represents District 3, which includes downtown San Diego. He is a member of the City Council's Land Use and Housing Committee and has previously chaired that committee. Last year, Councilmember Whitburn chaired the City Council's Select Committee on San Diego Housing Commission Oversight and Reform. That Select Committee requested the change in the bylaws for HDP to specify that one of the at-large seats on the board would be filled by a member of the Housing Authority of the City of San Diego. This board approved that change to the bylaws in our July meeting. Commercial space interior improvements are complete at the new Palace Hotel property in Bankers Hill. Staff is reviewing bids for replacement of the original storefront glazing from about 1990. This will make the commercial spaces more attractive to prospective tenants. The new Palace property also includes 79 affordable rental housing units for seniors at the risk of homelessness or those who are experiencing homelessness. Staff has completed the IRS Tax Form 8609 process for Marinas Village. This issue of a compliance monitoring check and execution of a regulatory agreement are pending. The 8609 form is submitted to the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee. It's required for the low-income housing tax credits for this rehabilitation project as part of the regulatory period. The form certifies from the state that the buildings have been completed and placed in service and that the tax credits can be issued. This typically leads to the release of any remaining equity installments to the developer. That includes, in most cases, the payment of the final developer fee. Mariners Village consists of 170 affordable rental apartments for families with low income in the Skyline Paradise Hills area. At the end of July, a new director of asset management joined our staff. Brandon Sarkisian has 10 years of experience in real estate. Of that, 7 years are in the area of affordable housing. His experience includes working as an asset manager at City Community Capital and First Community Housing. He also serves as a project manager at Affirmed Housing. We're glad to have Brendan here on the HDP team, and you'll be seeing him a little bit later with our presentations. Welcome, Brendan. Do any board members have any questions about any of these items? No. Next is the approval of the minutes for the July 12th, 2023 meeting, special meetings of both the HDP and HDP Mason boards. We do not have any speaker slips regarding the minutes, so first we'll consider the HDP board meeting minutes. Do any board members have any changes to the minutes, or do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Board Member Gramling and a second by Board Member Klumpner to approve the minutes from the July 12th, 2023 HDP board meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. This motion carries unanimously. We'll now adjourn as the HDP board and convene as the HDP Mason board to vote on the HDP Mason board meeting minutes from the July 12th, 2023 meeting. May we use the same motion and second for the HDP Mason board meeting minutes?
You may.
We have a motion by Board Member Gramling and a second by Board Member Klumpner to approve the minutes from the HDP Mason board meeting of July 12th, 2023. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, please say nay. That motion carries unanimously. We will now adjourn as the HDP Mason board and convene as the HDP board. This morning, I am proposing that item 100, the 2024 meeting calendar for the HDP board be placed on the consent agenda. No speaker slips have been submitted for this item. Do any board members have any comments on the consent agenda, or do we have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Klumpner and a second by Board Member Mitchell to approve item 100 on today's consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, please say nay. The motion carries unanimously. Next is item 101, the 2024 operating budget for Housing Development Partners. We'll take public comments after the staff presentation. Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Suket Dayal and Vice President of Real Estate Finance Julie Conserva will present this item. Please begin whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, board members. HDP is San Diego Housing Commission's nonprofit affiliate, incorporated in 1990 to provide affordable housing and services for people with low to moderate income, seniors, and individuals with disabilities. Our portfolio consists of 25 properties and around 1,700 units. 370 of these units are dedicated for people experiencing homelessness. A quick note on how the financials tie up. The financials for HDP are incorporated into San Diego Housing Commission's Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, or ACFR. Now, the Housing Commission's ACFR, which of course includes HDP, is incorporated in the City of San Diego's Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Our presentation will cover the HDP operating budget for 2024. Brandon Sarkisian, as Jeff mentioned, will be presenting the property budget separately. And now I'll pass it on to Julie to walk us through the operating budget and sources and uses.
Good morning. HDP's 2024 proposed budget, thank you, totals approximately $5 million. This includes revenue, operating expenses, and transfers into unrestricted reserves. Revenues include developer fees, which are earned from achieving project-specific milestones such as construction completion and stabilization of rental operations. Additional revenues anticipated include receipts from available cash flow from rental operations, general partner management fees, and interest earned on investments. Revenue increases in 2024 are due to the disbursement of accumulated operating cash flows from the Mariners Village project upon the anticipated milestone achievement of final allocation of low-income housing tax credits, as well as increases in interest income from investments to align with actual revenue received. Total proposed uses of funds include operating expenses of $2.1 million and $3 million retained for future organizational goals. Proposed staff positions remain unchanged from 2023 and include approximately 7 full-time staff positions. Next slide, please. Thank you. Reserves proposed for 2024 include a $1 million corporate operating reserve, a $500,000 special purpose reserve, a $2.8 million property reserve required for guarantees of operating shortfalls for rental properties in which HDP acts in the general partner capacity, $2 million of board-approved commitments related to the affordable housing projects, and a $600,000 project reserve to fund short-term project loans from funding source timing gaps. Next slide, please. And that concludes the presentation. Happy to answer any questions or comments.
We have no speaker slips for public comment on item 101. So that concludes our public comment period. Board members, do you have any questions or comments, or do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
All right. So we have a motion by Board Member Gramling and a second by Board Member Mitchell to approve item 101. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The motion carries unanimously. The remaining items on the agenda, items 102 through 113, are the 2024 property budgets for the properties in HDP's real estate portfolio. We will now have one presentation today regarding agenda items 102 through 113 on the HDP board agenda and item 100 on the HDP Mason board agenda. We will take public comments on these items after the staff presentation. Director of Asset Management, Brandon Sarkisian, will present these items. Please begin when you're ready.
Can you hear me now? Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Today, I'm happy to present the 2024 budgets for HDP portfolio and the HDP Mason portfolio, the one property. Today, we'll be going over total operating income, total expenses, and net operating income for the portfolio as a whole, as well as our efforts in continued monitoring and supporting of the properties for their long-term viability. On this slide, you could see the 2024 budgeted per unit per year total incomes, total expenses, and the net operating income. You'll see that Mason Hotel's $14,641 per unit per year on operating expenses budgeted is much higher than the rest of the portfolio. This is because Mason Hotel is a 17-unit property. It comes with lower economies of scale. We see total net operating income for the HDP portfolio at $10,539 per unit per year. For Mason Hotel, it's $11,206 per unit per year. Moving on to this slide, this slide shows the difference between the 2023 budget and the 2024 proposed budget at a portfolio level. This does not include HDP Mason. That'll be on the next slide. For 2024, the portfolio budgeted total income and expenses are anticipated to increase 8% and together, and NOI is anticipated to increase 7%. And this is over the 2023 portfolio budget. Some large line item variances are caused by total other operating income, which is driven by finding a commercial tenant for the commercial space at Hotel Churchill. The lease was signed late 2023, and we expect full occupancy for 2024. The expense items will be discussed further on in the presentation. This slide shows the difference between the 2023 budget and 2024 budget for HDP Mason. We see 2024 budgeted total income and expenses are due to increase 27% and 26% respectively over the 2023 Mason Hotel budget. NOI is expected to increase by 28%. On the next slide, we're going to discuss the operating budgets and total income. One item affecting our total income is our total loss to lease, which is the difference between current rent and maximum allowable rent. Over the years, HDP has approached rent increases conservatively, pausing rent increases during the COVID-19 pandemic years. Rent increases have not kept up with the max allowable rents. The planned rent increases will assist the properties in paying for ongoing maintenance, property management expenses, staff, security, and other items. The three properties with the largest loss to lease are Knox Glen, Town & Country, Mariners Village. For 2024, the loss to lease is expected to be $1.6 million, which is lower than the 2023 estimate from last year. This decrease is a result of anticipated rent increases. For the 2024 budget, the proposed rent increases reflect a 5% increase for Knox Glen and Town & Country, 10% not to exceed $95 per unit for Mariners Village, and 3% for all other non-PBV projects. The proposed rent increases are in line with Assembly Bill 1482, which imposes rent caps on residential properties in California. The rent increase is limited to the lower of 10% or 5% plus CPI. The charge on rents for units with project-based housing vouchers does not impact the tenant's portion of rent, which is still based on the household's income. The next slide, we're going to dive into the operating expenses for the portfolios. 1/3 of HDP's portfolio provides permanent supportive housing for supportive services for people who experience homelessness, or PSH. PSH housing presents a unique operating challenge, such as higher security costs, unit repair, and turnover expenses. I do want to note Mason Hotel is a PSH property. Continuing with operating expenses, a newly required inspection of balconies, stairways, and similar structures at multifamily buildings with 3 or more units, which must be completed by January 1st, 2025, will be completed this year for the year 2024, and this has been budgeted in the 2024 budget. These inspections happen once every 6 years. Again, it's brand new. It's an inspection that must be completed by an engineer, architect, or other qualified professional. And it identifies immediate threats and recommends repairs. Again, we have the estimates budgeted in 2024, but asset management is currently working with other vendors to obtain the most competitive bid that will fulfill Section Senate Bill 721 requirement. On the next slide, again, looking at different items that are driving expenses on the portfolio, we see continued increases in utilities. The city of San Diego has indicated increases in water and sewage rates of 10.2%, while SDG&E has indicated an estimated increase of 5.3% and 17.5% for electric and gas, respectively. Maintenance costs for the buildings also see anticipated increases for contracted trade services such as landscapers, painters, and plumbers. Salary expenses also continue to increase with the competitive job market, resulting in longer searches to fill vacant job openings and increased costs in temporary employment. Lastly, for expenses, moving on to insurance, The most recent insurance renewal premium saw roughly a 2% increase that covers the span of September 2023 to August 2024. The remaining 4 months of 2024, we budgeted a 10% increase in insurance costs to be conservative. The HDP properties will continue to benefit from economies of scale with the current umbrella policy, which we had in 2023. It's extending to 2024. And insurance premiums continue to be a challenging expense to mitigate industry-wide. For this next slide, this all results in 2024 budgeted portfolio net operating income. It exceeds the portfolio pro forma expectations. We do have some properties that are exceeding pro forma operating expenses. However, the net operating income is expected to exceed underwriting expectations. We are continuing to focus our efforts to reduce expenses throughout the entire portfolio by taking advantage of programs to reduce expenses, including but not limited to utility savings programs and solar installations. In the spirit of our continuous improvement, we are taking steps to identify new opportunities and efforts to reduce expenses, monitor trends, and provide oversight for long-term preservation of the assets. We'll look at ways to reposition the properties, either looking through refinance or other efforts to kind of reduce expenses and improve the performance of the properties. Staff is recommending that HDP and HDP board member Mason Board of Directors approve the 2024 property budgets as detailed in the staff reports for the properties shown on the slides. This concludes the presentation. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent. Thank you, Brandon. We have no speaker slips for items 102 through 113. So this concludes public comment for those items. And we will now consider items 102 through 113 on the agenda. Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes.
Mr. Board Member Gramling, please.
Yeah. When you were mentioning the inspections that are happening on that new inspection requirement, and it's once every 6 years, do you anticipate that on at least an annual basis, someone from our staff here will at least enter that balcony or enter that stairwell and at least have an eye on the materials?
Yeah, that's annually we will do property inspections. We do review the balconies and the like. This inspection, what it does, it kind of goes in and sees the interior. So if you recall, a few years ago in Berkeley, a patio, a balcony collapsed, resulting in some serious consequences. So this Senate bill is structured to alleviate that. So yes, we will have staff on site to review the properties and their performance and maintenance ability. But this inspection is specifically going to happen every 6 years, and it will look at the internals. And it is as I mentioned, it's a licensed architect or someone that's a professional that could identify any risks. So we'll make those repairs to those risks, and if we see anything as staff going on, we'll definitely mention it and then try to make the necessary repairs that are needed.
As a certified building inspector, I'm familiar with that law, and we've been looking at it internally in another organization of how best to accomplish some of that. So that's why I was asking that. As you were discussing the budget, you indicated that the projected income is significantly increased from the previous year on that. And what do we attribute that increase to?
Yes, so we attribute that increase to the larger rent increases we saw in 2024 that were unexpected. So 2023, we budgeted for some of the PSH properties. We expected a rent increase that was much lower than what was actually granted. So that's one of the large attributors. So in 2024, we're going to continue seeing the rent increase from 2023, and we're seeing a bump which we're anticipating around 3%.
Okay, but you previously indicated that the actual increase will impact from government funds and not impact the actual payments that are being made by the tenant. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. On the permanent supportive housing projects, the project-based voucher projects, they will not impact the tenant's portion of the rent. The tenant portion of the rent is based on their household income.
And you mentioned that you're anticipating obtaining a major tenant for a portion of the Churchill, Hotel Churchill. And what are you looking at there in terms of the space that you're renting or the type of tenant?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the tenant is in place today, as of today, and it has been since, I want to say, October. If I could call Nate up, he has much more experience with the tenant there. He's been working directly with them.
Good morning, everybody. Nathan Simpson. So the tenant that's in place there is currently a nonprofit called Clinica Humantis Foundation, and they offer medical services to different populations in downtown, mostly homeless populations. And so they thought that Hotel Churchill would be a good fit for their operations.
Where are they actually going to be housed inside the hotel?
The tenant,
Yeah.
they're on the ground level.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, we've got a fairly large lobby area, and then we've got smaller offices around that, on that.
Yeah, so the commercial space is it's outside of the lobby area. There's no direct access to the hotel itself. So it's off to the side. I forgot which street it was, the entrance. It's on 10th. Yeah, the entrance is on 10th. So, and it's completely separate from the hotel and the operations there.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, thank you, Board Member Gramling. Board members, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I just was looking at the insurance statements, and obviously the insurance crunch happening in the state of California. I see you built in 10% for the remaining 4 months of the year, and so was that? Did you get an indication that the premium was going up for the final 4, and then have they given you an indication of what the increase is going to be for next year?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. We're estimating a 10% increase because we saw on the San Diego Housing Commission side, the portfolio, I believe the insurance increased 14%. On HDPs, we only saw a 2% increase. So we're anticipating somewhere between 2 and 14%. So to be on the conservative side, we added a buffer of 10%. If it's less, it's going to be much more welcomed, but just on the event of just being conservative.
Okay, so you built a cushion in. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Mitchell. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Board Member Mitchell and a second, Board Member Gramling, to approve items 102 through 113 of the HDP board agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. We will now adjourn as the HDP board to reconvene as the HDP Mason board. May we use the same motion and second for items 100 on the HDP Mason board agenda? So we have a motion by Board Member Mitchell, a second by Board Member Gramling to approve items 100 on the HDP Mason board agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. This motion carries unanimously. All right, that concludes our action items for today. Do any of our board members have any questions about the informational items listed on today's agenda for either HDP or HDP Mason? All right, seeing none, this concludes today's meeting of the HDP and HDP Mason board. This meeting is adjourned at 8:35 a.m. Thank you all very much. That was nice.